Hi, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Welcome back to another journal with me video. This is the second of this type of video that I've posted recently, and there was some nice feedback below the last one, so I decided that I would pop back and do another. If journaling's something you're not interested in, I completely understand. Thank you for taking the time to check out the video. I will be definitely posting some more making content soon, so I hope you'll join me for the next videos instead. If you have joined me for my previous journaling videos, you'll know that I'm working in a bullet journal, just a plain notebook with gridded paper that I purchased from Tiger here in the UK, and I've divided it into sort of monthly tracker pages and daily journaling pages. I'm working in the journaling section here at the moment, but this is something a little bit different from a daily page, which is why I felt inspired to record what I was doing and share that with you. I'd just cast off a big project that I'd been working on for the last couple of months, my Aqua Miri cardigan, and I was thinking about how I could record that in my journal. And of course the simplest option would be just to add a note to my daily journaling pages to say that I had finished a project, but I felt like maybe I needed to do something a little bit more than that, something to make my finished projects stand out from the rest of my daily journaling. And of course, once I had that idea pop into my head, I couldn't get rid of it. So I figured I would just go for it and try this out. This is my journal adventure. I can do what I want, and if it doesn't work out for me this time, then I can change it in the future. But as I had that thought, I realised that the Aqua Miri wasn't actually the first project that I completed in January. That accolade went to my New Moon slipper socks. So I couldn't go back really and add that in without sticking in extra pages to correspond with the date that I finished that project. And I thought, well, does it really matter? This is my journal, I can do what I want with it. So I decided just to make a double page spread here featuring the New Moon socks and the Aqua Miri. Although it doesn't entirely reflect the timing of these finished objects, the New Moon slipper socks will still be recorded as part of my January making adventure. So as I've been talking, you've been watching me just put some washi tape onto my page. I made my New Moon slipper socks from some orange Polworth yarn that I hand spun, and so I put some orange washi tape as a border around the page. You know me, any excuse to use more orange. But I thought this border would also help sort of distinguish this particular page from the preceding pages, which were just my daily journaling. So yeah, washi around the edge. And then at the top of the page, I just wrote first finished object of 2021. In the end, I decided to make some changes to this. I didn't think my lettering at the top there really sort of highlighted that this was my first finished object. So later in the video, you'll see that I've gone back in and changed that slightly. But now I'm just going to be completing the page with some information about my project, the pattern designer, who is Curio Stitches, the yarn, when I started, when I finished, etc. So yeah, that's what's happening at the moment. But I don't think we need to sit and watch me fill in all of the details, so we'll start to skip ahead a little bit now, and I will just show you clips of anything of interest that I'm getting up to. So here I am deciding to make that change to the top of the page that I mentioned a moment ago. I have this little lovely collection of banner post-its that I think were sent to me by my lovely friend Jeanette. Hi Jeanette, if you're watching. So I'm just going to stick one of those over the text that I'd previously written and then rewrite that. As you can see, I have completed New Moon in bold, and I've coloured that in with my orange brush pen, and then I have gone round and highlighted each of the letters with just an ordinary black gel pen. So here I've almost finished the New Moon side of this journaling spread, and I'm just about to start working on the Aqua Miri side. And I have decided to do something a little bit different for my lettering. I don't want all of the pages to be exactly the same. So I decided to keep this paper bag that I had, I think it was in a package that were recently sent to me by the lovely Emma of Eldenwood Craft. I treated myself to a new project bag, and there were some bits and pieces included in this gorgeous brown spotty paper bag. So I decided to keep the bag for something, and then when I had decided to make this journaling spread, I thought this brown spotty paper would be perfect to kind of coordinate with the main colour of my Aquamiri, which is brown. If you've watched any of my project videos, you'll know the project. So yeah, I'm just cutting out letters to spell out Aquamiri from this lovely bag. So yeah, just as a highlight, really, I guess. Some people have asked me about journaling supplies and is it expensive to get started, and it doesn't have to be. As I mentioned before, you can just start with a plain notebook. You can spend as much or as little as you want, as with any other hobby, but as you can see here, you know, just saving a few bits and pieces from packages that you receive, or perhaps clippings from junk mail or magazines if you buy magazines, newspapers, anything really. You can keep and use as inspiration to make a colourful page in your creative journal. So lettering has all been cut out, and I'm moving on to the decorative element of the page now. And I'm doing something a little bit different and playing around with a bit of watercolour. You'll see at the top of the piece of watercolour paper that I'm using at the moment, I had sketched out some slipper socks for the new main page. In the end, I didn't use these because once I had actually finished the drawing of these and the sort of highlighting, I went over and highlighted it with gel pen. I didn't like how they turned out, so at the end of the video you'll see I actually just printed out a photograph that I'd taken for the new moon side of the page, but I thought it was just worth mentioning that here because you'll see those orange socks at the top of the page and then never see them again after this. But yeah, at the moment I'm just sketching out a rough outline of a cardigan. I am not adept at drawing at all. In fact, I am pretty rubbish, but I can do a bit of a basic outline, and the idea here really is just to give an impression of the finished project rather than an exact replication. But yeah, you'll see later when the picture is finished, the sleeves are a bit wonky and things don't quite match up, but it gives the idea and I'm happy with how it turned out. So yeah, you don't have to be Picasso to add a little bit of your own drawing to your journals. So I'm coming back in now with the watercolour over the top of my sketch. You might remember, if you watched the first video that I put up this year about this particular journal, that I had experimented with putting watercolours directly onto the pages, but I wasn't particularly happy with how the page in this book took the water. So I decided that that shouldn't stop me from using watercolours in this journal. I could just use a separate watercolour pad, and I had one of those from some previous attempts at doing watercolours, and yeah, I just have a few sheets of this lying around, but I think you can pick up a small pad of watercolour paper and a basic set of watercolours for just a few pounds. It doesn't have to be expensive again, but yeah, I figured that for the odd occasion where I really felt like using them, that I could just kind of do what I wanted on a separate watercolour paper, and then just stick it into my journal so that I could use watercolours where I wanted to. While I've been waiting for the watercolour to dry, I've actually properly stuck down the lettering. You might have noticed it shifting around a little bit on the previous clip. So yeah, I'm going back now to add in a little bit of detail to my drawing of my cardigan. I decided, because it's quite a small area, I didn't want the colours to bleed, so to put the detail of the contrasting colours on to my sketch, I decided just to use gel pens. My contrasting colours are blue and orange, so yeah, I just decided to add those in with a gel pen rather than the watercolour, to avoid sort of risk of the colours muddying together. I love the idea of using watercolours, but I have not the skill or the knowledge to really do it properly. Maybe one day I'll take a class, but probably not, because I just find that sort of thing really intimidating, given that I can't really draw. So yeah, it's probably one of those someday, maybe, probably never ideas that rumble around in my head. And then finally, I'm just going round the detail and the edge of my sketch with a dark fine liner, just to highlight some of the detail. I could just easily have used a gel pen for this job too. I'm grateful to Past Me, who, when I was employed, had extra disposable income and sometimes used to buy art supplies that I never really would know how to or really have the time to use, that I now have kind of in my collection. But as I've mentioned several times before, you can get a basic startup set for yourself. A few coloured gel pens would do the job just as well. You don't have to spend all of the money to be able to do this kind of thing. So I just fussy cut round the edge of my sketch of my cardigan and stuck that down to the page. All the while I've been working on my watercolour, there was this space on the New Moon page that was really bothering me. You can see where I've placed my stencil. I have this stencil with all different sizes of circles on. And if you look at a lunar calendar, the new moon is basically very barely visible. So I decided to kind of sketch out an approximation of a new moon, not really, kind of a nod to it, but this was more just a space filler than anything else, just because for some reason my eye kept being drawn back to that blank square next to my writing, and it was just bothering me, so I decided to go in and do something about that. Back to Aquamiri, and I didn't want the pages to be exactly the same, but I also liked the idea of having some sort of box or border within which I could write about my project. And I found this piece of card that was actually sent to me by the lovely Simone, who is a big journaling inspiration for me. I've mentioned Simone before, and I will link her channel down below. She uses lots of watercolour in her journals, which I just find really inspiring. But yeah, she so kindly sent me a package last year. Was it last year? Was it even the year before? May even have been towards the end of the year before. And there was that pink piece of card that you saw, and I really liked the rounded edges, and it seemed to be the perfect size for my page. So I just drew round it, and now I'm going around that line that I made with one of my brush markers to make a sort of border for a box within which I can write all of the project details that I want to for my Aquamiri. So I'm just wrapping up this spread now, and I have added a yarn label to the Aquamiri side of the page with the Croft yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners, which was the main colour in my Aquamiri, and I am just sticking in a photograph of my finished new moon socks. As you know from earlier, I discarded the watercolour sketch that I did of those socks, which is fine because these pages don't have to be the same. So yeah, this is my finished spread. It's tucked in amongst the daily memory keeping section of my journal, and I'm ready to turn the page and start a new day. Thanks so much for watching this video.